Bet the Breeders' Cup with the DRF app. The Daily Racing Form app is a highly rated, powerful tool that makes handicapping and wagering fast and easy, putting you in position to win big at the races. Register today to double your first deposit up to $250. Get the DRF app now.
Hi everyone, David Aragona here with Craig Milkowski, and we are taking a look at one of 9 Breeders' Cup races on Saturday. It is race 5 at Del Mar, the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, going 5 furlongs. This one, Craig, is always a mad dash when it's 5 furlongs on one of these California turf courses. So we're going to see who's going to work out the right trip. That's going to be of utmost importance here. Let's throw up the field for this race, and this is just a wide open affair. We've got Golden Pal as the 7-2 morning line favorite. We'll talk about him quite a bit, Craig, but I think there are a lot of ways to go in this race.
Yeah, I do as well. I mean, it's a huge field, of course, on a course that's not that big, going a short distance. So I imagine there's going to be a lot of fighting for position early. And I really couldn't blame anyone for coming up with any of the horses that are drawn into the main field here.
Yeah, you see there are those 4 also eligible runners, the 15 through 18. All of them would need 1 or more scratches to draw into the 13 through 18, 6 also eligible runners. All of them would need 1 or more scratches to draw into this race, as the field size is capped at 12. Let's look at the Time Form US pace projector, Craig, because for a turf sprint going 5 furlongs, it's not like there's that much front-running speed in this race, but I think the 2 horses that are shown towards the front end, the 3 Golden Pal and the 4 Lieutenant Dan, both of them likely to show a lot of speed.
Yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot of argument with those. We do have a couple Euro shippers in here, including last year's winner, Glass Slippers, but she's actually shown on the pace projector because we have that run from last year. You'll note the 2 and the 6, Emiratiana and the Case of You are not shown. So you kind of got to leave it up to reading the footnotes to decide if they're going to be part of the pace. But I would agree with you. It's not a ton of pace for a 5 furlong dash.
And I think when we get to the end, you'll see that this pace projector does influence both of our picks quite a bit, but we'll talk about that when we get to the end of this video, Craig. Let's start off among the contenders by talking about the horse that is shown on the lead here, the number 3 Golden Pal. We'll take a look at his race last time out in the Woodford when he's beating Extravagant Kid, who was also in this race. Craig, I thought it looked a little bit dicey at the top of the stretch here when Golden Pal actually lost the lead, but he did gamely battle back to get this done. What did you make of this performance?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. He's a horse I've been trying to beat, and I was hoping he'd be one I'd try to beat in here, but I don't really have any knocks on him. I mean, he's fast early. You can see that fast pace figure that he ran the last time when we do get around to putting his graphic up. He's done very little wrong. The only real knock I have on him is his price. He's a 3-year-old. He's basically gotten faster every single time out. If you ignore that race he ran over in England at York, where he did look pretty good in his prior start, but he just didn't show up that day. So I do think he's a contender in this race. I'm just not a fan. I think he's going to be overbet.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think he's probably a horse that some people are going to default to because of the connections. Wesley Ward, always so dangerous with those turf sprinters, and he has a bit of a reputation coming into this race. I'm not sure that Golden Pal's reputation is totally earned. I know that he's done a lot of winning. I wouldn't say that he's necessarily beat the quality of horses that he's going to be facing here. That one big test that he got in the middle of the season, that Nunthorpe, he just failed it. He got a great trip, the right kind of ground, that he just wasn't able to hang with some very good European sprinters, including one that he's going to meet again here. I don't think he's really beaten the best competition in his 2 other stateside victories. So to me, Golden Pal has a lot to prove in this race. And if he is a short price, I'd be looking to take a shot against him. Craig, though, I'm not as against the other horse that's likely to show speed in this race, the number 4, Lieutenant Dan. Let's take a look at his victory over this same course in the Green Flash 2 back at Del Mar. And I know we both like this victory quite a bit. This horse has a ton of early speed, and you know that he's going to challenge Golden Pal for the front end.
Yeah, he does. And he's also shown he can sit off the lead a little bit. I was really impressed by his race we're not showing, which was down the hill at Santa Anita, where he was able to sit just off the pace. But he's going to be in a good spot. He's drawn outside of Golden Pal, so he can challenge him pretty quick. You can note it in the graphic that I marked out his one race where he tried 2 turns, and he's just been a really steady horse, always running around that 120 time form US speed figure. And I really like his versatility, his draw outside the main speed. He's 2 for 2 on the Delmar course, and I just don't have any knocks on him.
No, he's just one of these horses that seems to show up every time. Like you said, when they do run him in the right distances, turf sprinting, he's a big, robust gelding, and you could see maybe why they've had some trouble keeping him on the track, because it does appear that he carries so much weight, but it seems like he's thriving right now as a 5-year-old, and if he holds his form of the last 2 performances coming into this race, in my opinion, he is the horse to beat in here. Let's take a look at the past performances of Gear Jockey, another horse who could take a little bit of money in this race. And Craig, he really has come to the fore this season since they turned him back to sprinting on the turf. He ran well 2 back when he blew the start and still closed well for 3rd in that Troy at Saratoga. And last time at Kentucky Downs, that was kind of his coming out party.
Yeah, I kind of highlighted him because he was a horse that had a tough trip at Saratoga, and he really backed it up at Kentucky Downs, where he ran that 119 speed figure, got the money at 5-1. You know, I'm a fan of horses coming out of those Kentucky Downs races, so I think Gear Jockey has a shot in here. My one concern is the 5 furlong distance. He hasn't gone that short as far as I could find back. He did win at 5.5 against much weaker company. That 6 furlong race we're looking at Kentucky Downs is more like 6.5. So I think he's going to need some pace. He's not going to get that upfront trip like he got in the turf sprint at Kentucky Downs. I would expect him to be more of a mid-pack type runner.
Yeah, and you'll see there are no pace figures listed for that Kentucky Downs race. I know that's something that Craig just kind of took out of the past performances for all of the Kentucky Downs races because the fractions are fairly unreliable there. But watching that race and the way it unfolded, I agree. It was a pretty slow-paced race, or so it seemed, and I don't think Gear Jockey is going to be able to get that same kind of trip here. And I just want to mention that Fast Boat, who was 4th in that race, I think he ran deceptively well trying to come through traffic from off the pace. I don't think that was the right trip in that Kentucky Downs affair last time, and Fast Boat might be more of a 5 furlong type, so he's one that I might throw into the mix at a price. Another horse that could take some money here for Wesley Ward is the number 9, Kamari. Craig, this is one that I really just don't know what to do with in this race. We've seen her on the dirt. We've seen her on the turf. She seems to run well regardless of surface or distance, but it's been a long time since we've seen her on the track.
Yeah, I've always been in the camp that she's a little bit better on the dirt, but that doesn't mean she can't win here. She definitely would need some pace. I read an article from Marcus Hirsch of DRF, one of our colleagues and guest on our podcast at times, and he said the trainer actually would have leaned towards the dirt, but he just doesn't think she's ready for the 7 furlongs. So this almost seems like a plan B to me, and I think Kamari's going to be one that I'm just going to have to let beat me. I don't trust her in here, but would it shock me if she won? It wouldn't, but I assume she's going to be overbet.
Yeah, she's one of the shorter prices on the morning line. And while she does have top turf sprint rider Joel Rosario on her back, she just hasn't shown the positional speed in her turf races to make me think she's going to be able to get the right trip here. So I was kind of against her. Another female horse that's competing in this race, though, that I'm somewhat interested in, Craig, is the number 7, Charmines Mia. And let's go back in the calendar all the way to January and take a look at Charmines Mia's stakes win at Santa Anita in the Las Ciennegas. And, we talked about this one on the Pacecast at the time, Craig, about a year ago. And this was a really impressive effort. She was beating a good field this day. The runner-up, Jolie Olympica, was a very good horse at this time, and she just dominated this affair. She was a big price this day, and she came back. They stretched her out, and she ran some nice speed figures going a mile after that. I think they just stretched her out a little bit too far. Going a mile and an eighth in the Gamely was just not what she wanted. She had an unfavorable pace scenario in that race 3 back. Rating tactics going longer didn't work out in the Yellow Ribbon. She was just way too rank in that race. And they turned her back to what I thought was the right distance last time in the Eddie D. And some people are just going to hold that against her and write her off based on that performance. I don't think that last race is quite as bad as it seems. That was a really fast pace coming down the hill. She was involved in a 3-way duel with Lieutenant Dan. Lieutenant Dan was 3 wide on the outside of horses, whereas she was battling on the rail, which I'm not sure is the right place to be when they're coming down the hill like that. And she just seemed to not handle the dirt crossing as well as Lieutenant Dan, and she faded. But turning all the way back to 5 furlongs, I think might work for her, Craig. And if she can get back to that 123 time Formula speed figure, she's in this race at a huge price.
Yeah, I have to be honest. When I first did the rundown for this race, I kind of overlooked her and I was a little surprised to see you had picked her on first. And I'll admit, I totally forgot about the Las Cienegas. She had been running in those route races. And I remember in the Eddie D, I really kind of liked her in that spot. And I was a little disappointed she didn't run as well as I thought she would. But admittedly, I don't think she got a great trip that day either. I don't think you want to be showing speed on the hill. You don't want to be inside like she was, particularly in a 3-horse speed duel. So I will admit I'm going to have to give this one another look, and especially at a 30-1 price.
This turf sprint, though, is not just about the American horses. There are some very intriguing European shippers in this race, and let's talk about a few of them. A Case of You, Glass Slippers, they faced off last time in the Prix de la Vie at Longchamp. Let's take a look at the stretch run of that race. A Case of You puts in a really impressive late run to get up here right at the wire. Glass Slippers, who had won this race in the past, I think this is the third time that she's competing in this race. She puts in another solid effort, but A Case of You was the one, Craig, who was really visually impressive in here.
Yeah, he was. I mean, it was a really tight finish. Didn't look like he was going to get up. That was a huge long shot that he was battling with. And I thought he ran well, but I do have some questions with him that we'll see when we bring up the past performances. And Glass Slippers as well. She obviously shipped out of this race last year, came over and won the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. But I'm not really as high on her this year as I was last year. We'll start with Glass Slippers. You can see she came over in really good form last year. She had just got beaten in this race, that same race at Longchamps, was able to get a trip. If I remember, you were a fan of hers that day, but I don't believe she is really the same filly this year. You can see it in her time form ratings, and you can see it in her finish position. She's yet to crack the exacta. She's been pretty short prices, and I just don't think she's the same. So I'm going to be a bit against her in this spot. I think the 5 furlongs probably won't do her a lot of favors from her rail draw either, where I imagine she's going to get shuffled back a bit.
Yeah, she got a great trip to win this race last year. Excellent ride from her jockey, Tom Eves. I'm not sure that her form this year is quite as poor as some of those time form ratings might make it seem when you watch those races, but still, it's hard to believe she's going to get a better trip than she got last year. I'm not sure the cutback to 5 furlongs over an American-style course really suits her. And Craig, we don't really know what to expect from A Case of You as he tries to run around a turn in this race. He's obviously got that big late foot that he showed last time out in that victory. He was that horse in the Gray Silks just getting up at the wire, but it does seem like this 3-year-old is coming into the race in top form.
He is coming in top form. The one thing that I really question is how's he going to handle the firm turf and how's he going to handle the tight turn? And I would imagine that he is going to get bet more than what that 8-1 morning line would show. Maybe I'll be wrong about that, but I think he's going to get bet quite a bit off that last race. And it just has a little bit too many questions for me. I'm one that's mostly been against European sprinters when they ship over here. It had served me well for a pretty long time until Glass Slippers beat me last year, but I'm going to revert to that same thinking for A Case of You. I just have a feeling he might get lost in this race early.
Craig, I think you and I both agree on this one. Perhaps the most dangerous European shipper of them all is the number 2 Emiratiana, the other horse for Kevin Ryan. And let's take a look at this gelding's victory in the Betfair Sprint last time out. I really like the way this horse finished off the race, and I was reading some quotes from his trainer who was saying that he thinks that the really firm-grounded Del Mar is probably going to suit Emiratiana better than it does his other horse, Glass Slippers. And he just seems like one that is going to love the 5 furlongs. He finished off this race gamely, and he's also another horse that just is coming into this in top form.
Yeah, I was impressed the most by him. The firm course has something to do with it. He's run well over a firm course there. And I just really liked how he was able to take the lead pretty early in this race, which isn't always easy to do. He had a lot of fight to the wire, and it was just a good, long, extended run. He's got really solid time form ratings that are as good as what we've seen from the American horses. So he is definitely one I think has a good shot. He's also one of those horses I'm going to keep wanting to call a she because of the name. But it's definitely not. He's a gelding.
Well, there's a lot going on in this race, and as you throw up our picks, you can see that Craig and I landed on somewhat different pages. Though, Craig, I think we agree on one thing. The number 4, Lieutenant Dan, he's the horse to beat, I think, in both of our estimations. You have him on top. I have him second. I left Golden Pal out. I really do prefer Lieutenant Dan to Golden Pal, and I think Lieutenant Dan is going to be the better price. I'm sure that's why you put him on top.
Yeah, it is because of the price, 6-1 morning line. I'm hoping I'll get that. It's tough to say with him being the local horse and having such a good record over the course, but I do think it's a wide open race. This is one I really look forward to playing some verticals in. I don't know if I would be getting involved in horizontals, but I think there's quite a ways you can go. And you've thrown a monkey wrench in with your Charmines Mia analysis, because I like what you've said about her as well.
Yeah, like I said, I think Lieutenant Dan's the horse to beat, but Charmines Mia, she's going to be a gigantic price in this race. So I just really want to highlight a horse like that. So I put her on top. I just feel like she's going to work out the right trip, as that pace projector indicated. She could be slotted right in behind those two speed horses. And she does have that prior sprint form that would make her competitive if she can get back to it. So it's a wide open Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint on Saturday. Good luck if you're playing this weekend.